When I first started birding, there were only 2 sapsucker species. Now 4 are recognized. 3 of the current species were once considered only 1, and the other? Well, it was considered 2, and boy, did they get that wrong. Before I talk about changing species and scientific mix-ups, what are sapsuckers, and do they really suck sap? You may have noticed parallel rows of small holes in the bark of live trees. These are not caused by insects. They are the well-tended sap wells of a group of woodpeckers called sapsuckers. Sapsuckers are small woodpeckers. They do eat insects, beetles, ants, and small berries and fruit. They even consume quite a bit of the cambium, the growing part of the tree just under the bark. But they don't drill into the trees for insects. That's because their main food source is sap. Sapsuckers have been documented to drill sap wells in more than 1,000 different species of trees. Like all woodpeckers, sapsuckers have very long tongues. These retract inside a special tube called a hyoid apparatus that wraps clear around the skull of the woodpecker. Unlike other woodpeckers, though, the tip of the sapsucker tongue is brush-like to lap up sap. No, they don't suck, but saplicker is just as silly a name as sapsucker. There are 2 types of sap wells, with different shapes. In winter and early spring, the sapsuckers drill deeper, round holes into the xylem. These reach the watery sap flowing up the trees from the roots. Later in spring, sapsuckers drill shallower, square holes. These tap the sugary sap in the phloem, flowing down from the leaves. To keep their sap wells open, they must constantly tend their wells. It's a lot of work to drill and maintain these sap wells, so a sapsucker will defend these wells, chasing away other sapsuckers and woodpeckers, hummingbirds, warblers, and even chipmunks. Sap oozes out of these holes slowly, so sapsuckers are often seen sitting low on the tree trunk quietly, waiting for the sap to flow. Especially in winter, sapsuckers may barely move and be hard to find. Another thing that can make sapsuckers hard to find is they are expert at hide and seek. Whenever you approach to take their photo, they sidle around to the backside of the tree. Then they peek out their head every once in a while, like this rare and uncooperative Southern California yellow-bellied sapsucker. There is a time when sapsuckers are more active and easier to find. This is in late spring and early summer when they are courting and nesting. At dawn, sapsuckers give squealing calls. And you may hear the males drumming on dead snags as they declare their territory. Drumming serves as a woodpecker's song, and the drumming of sapsuckers is unique. Sapsuckers start drumming rapidly, then slow down. They've even been called the Morse code woodpeckers due to their drumming pattern. This is probably a good time to talk about the different species of sapsuckers. This is a yellow-bellied sapsucker. It lives across Canada and the eastern United States. For years, this species included the very similar red-naped sapsucker of the interior West. The most obvious difference is a hard-to-see small patch of red on the back of the head, and where their ranges overlap, they sometimes breed together. On the west coast lives a sapsucker with an all-red head, the red-breasted sapsucker. It sometimes breeds with the red-naped sapsucker where their ranges overlap. Here's a hybrid between the two. So, for years, scientists had lumped all 3 forms together as one species called yellow-bellied sapsucker. In 1983, that changed. Scientists decided that they were wrong and split red-breasted and red-naped from yellow-bellied. And now we have 3 species where there was formerly 1. One of the most bizarre stories of bird misidentifications in North America concerns the Williamson's sapsucker. It was in 1852 that John Casson named a new sapsucker from California, the black-breasted woodpecker, Picus thyroideus. It was brownish and barred on the back with a black chest and red chin. The female, as with all other sapsuckers, was similar but without the black chest and red chin. A few years later, in 1855, John Newberry found a black sapsucker in southern Oregon with a red throat. This was on the Williamson's expedition to find a route for a railroad to the Pacific, so he named it the Williamson sapsucker, Picus williamsonii. The female, as with all other sapsuckers, was similar, but with a white throat. Except that it turns out that not all sapsuckers have genders with males and females quite similar. In 1873, 21 years after first discovery, Henry Henshaw found a black-breasted woodpecker nesting with a Williamson sapsucker. They weren't separate species after all. Instead, the genders were so different that even the juvenile plumages were different. It wasn't male and female, but adult female and juvenile female and adult male and juvenile male. In 1886, the new name, Williamson's sapsucker, appeared on the first checklist of the American Ornithologists' Union. The English name followed the male bird. The scientific name, Sphaerapicus thyroideus, followed the first discovered female. Click on this video to watch a great horned owl nest I found and learn interesting nesting facts.